Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you're all having a great day and staying safe. I'm Mickey Campo. I'm a program manager at Innovation Guelph. And for those of you new to Innovation Guelph, or IG as we call it, I just want to let you know briefly a little bit about us. IG is a nonprofit and is one of a group of regional innovation centers located throughout Ontario. And while we do service Guelph in the Southern Ontario catchment area, we do have programs and services to support innovative and scalable businesses of all sizes throughout Canada. So I welcome you to check out our website for more information. It's innovationguelph.ca. But enough about us and enough about IG. Let's get this party started. So today I'm pleased to introduce you to one of IG's amazing mentors, Don Thompson. Don is an innovative product development expert focused on helping startups in many different sectors deliver successful new product solutions that solve real customer problems all over the globe. His expertise is owned by years of industry experience developing and managing new products for top performing Fortune 100 companies, including Amazon, BlackBerry, and GE. So before I hand things over to Don, or Amadon, as he was dubbed by one of the experts we work with at Shopify, I do have a few housekeeping items to go over with you. So today's session is being recorded. It'll be live on our YouTube channel in the next 48 hours. All attendees are muted, so you can either have your videos on or off, that's up to you. We won't be looking at your smiling faces. But if you decide you would like to ask any questions, please raise your hand option on the lower right corner of your screen, or type in the question to the general chat window that you can get to at the bottom of your screen. So we encourage you to ask questions as you have them. And Wes, who is here as well. Wes and I will help navigate that conversation and pass the questions on to Don, or unmute you so you can ask those questions yourself. Don may ask if you have questions or comments throughout the presentation, so please don't be shy. This presentation is really in need of your participation as well. It's very welcome, so please do participate. Without further ado, please welcome Don.
Woo. So, Don Thompson, thank you so much, Mickey. Thank you for the intro. I've been looking at some of the names here that are in the list, and I recognize many of them, which is fantastic. So, as Mickey said, I'm going to be going through a presentation today. Going to kind of try to find a cadence that allows people to ask questions. If they're urgent, ask. If you can wait a few slides, we may cover it down the road. There is time at the end for us to have more of a kind of roundtable discussion as part of what we're trying to achieve. But again, certainly if you have a burning question that must be answered right away, raise your hand. Wes is going to help kind of manage our overall cadence here. Okay, so with that, I will turn my camera off. I just wanted to prove that I got dressed today, which is great. It's a win on these days for sure. And I'll go into the presentation.
Well, while Don's trying to figure that out, one of the questions he did ask me earlier is if he makes a joke, you can, in the bottom there's a reaction. You can click on that and give him a big thumbs up every once in a while. It might make things go a little smoother for him.
That'll be nice if you could. So can you see that? Can you see the slide now, Mickey?
Yes, we can see
Excellent.
your slides.
Okay, so just the main slide. Make sure we're good. Boom. Cool. Okay. Okay, so with that, we're going to be talking about product development in a crisis, and it's something that we wanted to put together, kind of leveraging experience, certainly dealing with product development in odd circumstances, but certainly not this odd. And so this is trying to pull together various project management tools and product management tools that I use with a variety of clients to try to kind of compile it into something on how we can deal with this better, hopefully, in a crisis. So certainly, questions, please feel free to ask those, and there will be time at the end to kind of go through any items as well. Okay. So our agenda today is going to be project management communication strategies. And so one thing that is of critical importance for us as we're dealing with the team that we have left, or certainly our network that we're working with, is how do we come up with different project management tools and how do we utilize them in this new environment? And that's something that we'll cover today. how to communicate with the team when in crisis. And so part of what we execute within our business is a lot of it's leveraged, frankly, through our team, whether that be contractors, consultants, full-time, part-time staff, or just, again, people who are within our sphere of influence that can help us through these various decisions we have to make. And then planning tactics for managing our business execution. So there are as simple things as who does what by when that we're going to be going through, trying to get a sense of stability in this time of obvious craziness, but that stability will help us as we plan forward and eventually come out of this. Okay. And the bonus is we are gonna spend a little bit of time at the end, and it's gonna be interesting to see how we can manage this with the number of people certainly on the call. But this idea of where can we help each other? And so there's a bit of an activity where we'll spend 5 minutes and you guys will do some stuff and come back and try to get some progress on some of the planning tools that I'm suggesting. But then also more of a call to action. There's plenty of people here, frankly, who have met each other or may not have met each other, but there's synergies and things that we can do along the way. And so we'll try to see what we can do to help out one another. Okay. So may you live in interesting times is something that I never really understood, nor did I want to, for if this is what interesting times are, okay? What I'm using the word interesting though, rather than terrible, okay? Because I really do believe it speaks to the fact that there are some positive changes that are going to happen because of the crisis. There's going to be new things that we come up with, new opportunities that present themselves to us, and frankly, new ways in which we can work. So if you think back, I will say in early March, I went on a plane to Australia with my family, and trying to come back on the 27th of March was a bit of a cluster show. So it's one of those things where so much has changed that we never would have necessarily thought given the pace of change that's occurred. If you just think in the past 2 weeks, there were businesses that had a prohibition against telecommuting, and they've been completely transformed. If you think of government departments that turn themselves from a 0% telework to 50% in less than 12 hours, and they're now 100% teleworking. So if you think that you can't change, it's amazing what a forcing function will do to allow that change to occur. So many places are being forced to work out just how they can implement this telework. It's going to result in whole new ways for us to be able to work from home, and potentially new ways that we can work for different companies in different locations that we never would have been available to us before. We're going to have new customers, new opportunities that present themselves because we're going to be so much more used to telework with this trial by fire. Okay. What I've learned, even in this short period of time, is that emergencies are an efficient path to innovation. We may need to be more bold because I can't think of many emergencies that haven't led to innovation. Frankly, I may be unknowingly trading future results for comfort. And so how do we get out of our comfort zone when it comes to our overall business and products that we're developing to actually drive innovation within our organization? So I wanted to lead with a couple innovations that occurred in the last hundreds of years that are based on innovations that happened on the battlefield. So tying off is this whole idea of the tourniquet. And tourniquets were used for a long time in battles back in 1537 from what I got. And frankly, it was something that got led away from because they decided to use boiling oil to cauterize and heal wounds versus the tourniquet. Well, tourniquet was something that was widely adopted because of its dire need built out of the situation that we found ourselves in. Now, that tying off ended up actually leading to a different problem, which was the idea that tied off limbs ended up having to be amputated. And so it led out to a whole new science of vascular surgery, which allowed people to operate and save the limb versus having to amputate it. And so those two things were done in the battlefield of various wars and allowed us to understand and adapt our approach. Halting infection. War also brought the mass production of antibiotics, right? The sulfa type medications, penicillin. And 1928, Scottish guy was able to actually take a weird mold and make it into penicillin. And that allowed us to learn so much more through providing that out to the war field and allowing people to, frankly, overcome the issues that were going on, all based on the premise that we have to find a solution. And I want to make sure that the point of this is there's medical innovations, there's other innovations that we can find that are going to allow us to come out of this in the end. So there's project management communication strategies that I want to go through, and we're going to go through the 12 principles of agile product development as a guidepost for managing through this time of crisis. We're going to look at each of the individual 12 principles, and we're going to adapt some of these for ourselves, because a lot of agile is based on software product development, but I tend to use it for hardware product development as well, services that we're delivering to the organization. When this crisis is over, and it will end, we'll be better prepared for managing our product development for the business moving forward. So if we look at customer satisfaction, welcoming change, delivering frequently, these are all things that are going to help us as we go along, okay? So each of these items will adapt now for your business and trying to get a kind of constant pace of product development. So customers' needs have dramatically changed in the last 4 weeks. More than any time in history, certainly that I recall, and from the research I was doing on it. What can we do to keep our current customers satisfied? Okay, what can we do adapting to new changing customers' needs? We have to take a look at our planning process and what has changed with our customers and the way that they are going to receive our goods, the way they're going to find our goods, the way that they're going to discover our services, and understanding the customer satisfaction requirements and how they have changed, both in the short term, but in the long term. If we think when eventually we're all out of quarantine and able to kind of recommunicate with society the way we were, things aren't going to go from 0 to 100 again overnight. And so how are we planning for that, where different services are going to open up and we're going to be able to go from 0 to 20, 20 to 50, right? And making sure that we're planning for that and the customer's needs are going to change along that way. Change is going to occur. We need to be welcoming change and, frankly, embracing it. So there's no point complaining that this has happened. It's now, what do we do about it? And welcoming change from an agile product development principle is this idea that customers are going to change their minds, markets are going to change, customers are going to want to move to a different type of solution, and we're going to have to adapt. New competitors are going to come into a market that we may not have considered before. And so these are things that we now have to get our head wrapped around so that at the end of the day, if we embrace the change, it's going to free up our mind and also allow us to take a real hard look at new ways that we can deliver innovation to our customers. So how do we turn this into an opportunity? Are there channels that we haven't previously explored, for whatever reason that may be, that deserve a relook at, a rethink, right? The most simplest, of course, is I only sell brick and mortar. How do I get to online? An obvious adjustment, okay? But are there different online channels that I can explore? Okay. Are there different delivery services that I can look at? Different ways to get my services? Frankly, can I move from physical delivery to virtual delivery, right? We're doing that with a client this evening to prototype something. So to try to get this idea of how am I going to exploit channels that I may have shunned in the past or said that's too hard, to really take another look at those and rethinking our previous assumptions. Real importantly, are there simpler versions of our products that we could offer at a better price? We know, based on the government providing stimulus to the economy, a lot of people have been affected financially by the crisis. And so they may not, somebody who may have been able to afford your product in the past is now hunkering down and just trying to pay rent. So is there a simpler version of our product that we can offer at a better price that can still fulfill a need? And those are things that we want to take a real hard look at, is trying to understand the way customers use our products. Has those changed? And if I can de-feature, whether it's a piece of software, de-feature a service that I offer, or de-feature a physical good to get to a lower price point that still allows me to survive as well, but still serve customers and potentially expand a market. Additionally, how can we address our supply chain and still deliver for customers? The number of people just down the line from a supply chain perspective that have been impacted. It's critical that we look at the full value chain and ensure that we can actually still deliver our goods for customers. And that may, by going to a simpler version of our product, allow us to still deliver. So looking at it very holistically, understanding there may be channels that we didn't previously think were valuable to us given the situation. De-feature, bring price down so we can serve current customers we have who may have been affected, or even open up into new customers that we hadn't considered before. Deliver frequently. Real important one here, where we're constantly ensuring, I'm constantly pushing clients here that sometimes simpler, faster is better, okay? You always hear, don't let perfection be the enemy of the good. And what we want to do is get to shorter timelines so we can do rapid innovation, rapid iteration, and make sure we don't spend too much time on an idea that's a dud. So if we go back a slide, welcoming change, bringing in a smaller version, a skinnier version of a product out to the marketplace may not be the right answer, right? It may not be something that's going to work for enough customers to be meaningful. We want to deliver that frequently. How do we do something in a week instead of a month, right? Oh, now a week feels like eternity these days, but how do you do it in a week rather than a month? Is there something we can do in 3 days instead of 7? So the way that I describe this is very simple, of who does what by when. If you can master that, you're going to be so much further ahead from a project management perspective. Most of the time, when I talk to clients and we have dates, in the past, it'd be spring 2020, right? August. So when needs to be a date, and it needs to be pretty sharp. April 15th. What is that thing that will have been achieved? Something that there's no ambiguity. There's no misunderstandings of what that thing is, because If we're doing it ourselves or we're relying on someone else with a shorter timeline, there's not enough time for spinning around on uncertain requirements. If you're working with a supplier and they're going to deliver you something, having a documented specification that is very clear and concise is going to be something that you want to do so they know what to deliver by when. And then who, very sharp. We want to make sure that the who is defined. It's a person, not a company. You know, for larger organizations, it's never departments, it's people. So if you're working with a vendor, who's your account manager, who owns that deliverable, that's going to deliver something to you by a date, okay? So get really, really sharp on that frequency of delivery, but the frequency of the definition of done. So increasing the frequency of delivering incremental products, okay? I want to fail fast, fail cheap. I want to know in 3 days, not 7, if something is going to be worth investing in. You know, is there smoke? There may be fire. We want to take the lean MVP, minimum viable product principles, towards good and not perfect, okay? Good is great right now. And trying to get feedback from customers that's going to allow us to validate or invalidate a hypothesis is of critical importance as we move forward through these times. So working together, you know, certainly businesses have been disrupted. Working together can mean all manner of things in this environment, okay? Many of you have had to lay people off, have been impacted yourselves, even if this is a part-time innovation thing that you're doing. Totally understand that, and you know, we want to be here and help you out. The whole idea is, how do we frankly leverage the employees, contractors, connections that we have so that we're not doing this alone. It's imperative that we lean on each other to find quick, fast, rapid solutions to see if it's valuable to move forward with, okay? Get as many multiple feedback loops as you can from people to validate if what you're doing makes sense, okay? Leverage those networks and support people, leverage your employees and contractors, you know, make sure that you are working together in a team, because at the end of the day, if we can brainstorm across that business, we're going to get so much more out of where we come out of this. So classic, together we are stronger, and it's very true in this case, is if we can work together as part of any agile principle, it's this whole idea of self-forming teams, self-organization, and really leveraging the power of the team versus the power of just one. Motivation is certainly a challenge at the best of times, and certainly at the worst of times, where people's mental health may be certainly impacted by what is going on. So understanding that first is absolutely important, so we don't try to use the wrong tools related to motivation. So at its base point, there's intrinsic and extrinsic motivation factors where, hey, I want to help, being intrinsic, versus I need money is an extrinsic. So looking at how you motivate the people around you is important. It's like, hey, you know, we're in this together. You know, can you help out with some surveys? Can you help out by sharing on social media? You know, those types of things to get networks so they're aware that you're doing something new, right? That's one way to do so. There are other motivation factors, like people need to get paid. And so how can we deal with that in a cash flow strapped situation? And certainly the government programs are changing daily as they, you know, make modifications, and they've certainly gone, for the first time I think in history, where good over perfect, and certainly there could be some arguments there. But at the end of the day, it's how do we move forward and motivate those around us so that we can get the best feedback and also the best support we need to develop and bring out our innovation to the marketplace. We're all in a very difficult situation, and this uncertainty, how can it help us maintain some level of momentum given the environment? And that momentum can be maintained by having shorter milestones, short, sharp experiments that we're running, that frequency of delivering, but also, again, working together as a unit to make sure that kind of we're all in this together and moving forward. Face-to-face communication. I should have changed the face-to-face to have some masks or something on it. We always want to index towards face-to-face communication over emails and text. And the face-to-face is the Zoom, right? It's the Skype. It's, you know, doing a Google Hangout. It's amazing. I have in the past, I developed products without ever having met the person overseas. And that was, you know, before video communication and what have you, just with speakerphones and emails and drawing packets. So it's possible, but it's certainly not efficient. And so when you're dealing with your team, your supplier, when you're having issues with, you know, an employee who is at home and you're kind of, this is going off the rails, get on the phone, give them a call, get on a video call, see the body language, because it's amazing how much of communication is done just through voice intonation and facial communication versus the classic email communication. So make sure you take the opportunity to leverage that face-to-face instead of just text messaging. It's amazing how much a phone call can help. And even if it's just to see how people are doing, but with high anxiety across your organization, across your team, across your vendors, you know, they've got people yelling at them, I'm sure, for, you know, supply timelines, et cetera. Do the right thing, give them a call. It's amazing how much that can help. And then the fact that technology gets in the way sometimes, okay? I'm not gonna lie, I'm not perfect at this either. You know, last week I literally spent 15 minutes of a 30-minute call just trying to sort out the technology between me and the other person, right? And I kind of know how to do this stuff. So sometimes it would have been just, honestly, I should have told her 5 minutes in, let's just, here's my phone number, just give me a call, right? It's so much easier. And so realize and recognize the fact that time is still precious. And sometimes going through the, you know, the camera setup and all that other fun stuff, it doesn't work perfectly every time. So get on a call, don't waste time. Anxiety is high enough as it is. Let's see how we can work, you know, quote unquote, face-to-face together through this time. So a working product is a key requirement of Agile, okay? Agile is a software product development process, which is mainly around the idea of a sprint approach, 1 week, 2 week sprints. And at the end of that period of time, the product is working. It's not kind of working, it's working. The features that we specified at the beginning are going to be working. And so how do we use the same mentality around the product or service that we're offering? Okay, so kind of working doesn't work. It's something that a customer must be able to have some level of value from that product. There's always tension between M, V, and P, minimal viable product. There's a tension between minimal and viable that says, well, how can I minimize features but not make it viable for customers to actually enjoy a benefit? And then the conglomeration of benefits is what creates a product. And so there's always these tensions that go on. And we want to make sure that at the end of our quote unquote sprint that we're doing through this frequency of delivery, that we have a product that a customer can have an opinion about. They can experience something, right? If I'm making product in my kitchen and it's being delivered to their house, that's the best way for them to actually experience the product. The fact that I can make it in my kitchen and put it on my doorstep doesn't necessarily give them the full value proposition of what I'm creating. So we look at the full service, the full customer workflow, but index towards working product, okay? When I think of it, if I'm making jams, I have 5 different flavors of jam. Guess what? I just need one, and I need to make sure it gets to customers. And even on CBC this morning, they're talking about all these vendors, all these suppliers who have 62 different SKUs of pasta that are now focused on 6. Why? Because they need to get the 6 right and they need to get the 6 out to the marketplace, not 62. So looking at those working product packages, that's going to allow us to get closest to cash. We may have products that are in progress in our organizations, okay? So how many of these can be simplified and delivered today, right? A lot of times we polish things, okay? I'm an engineer, I've been guilty of this myself, and so I can say it. We polish a product that we don't even know if customers want it. So stop polishing and get it out there. The thing that you're struggling with, it could be an ingredient, it could be, again, a feature, line of code, it could be some hardware feature that we're trying to deliver. Is it critical? Is it something that customers say, I will not buy your product without that? Or if I simplified it, could I deliver it today? Always thinking closest to cash. How can we reduce scope of current initiatives and still deliver a product to the market that provides value for customers, right? Minimal viable product. If I cut too much, then it's not a viable product because it's like one benefit that customers aren't going to be over the moon about. Potentially. We need to know our customers to understand that. But we want to go through and understand the things we have right now that are right near the end that, man, I'm struggling with this one buckle. Can we get rid of the buckle? And can we get it to the market today? And looking at all those things that you may be working on at various different levels of maturity. Which one is closest? And how do we get it to cash? So critical expectation of you and the organization now. Oh yeah, nice transition. So, constant pace, okay? I want organizations to be thinking like a metronome, okay? The constant pace is going to help us with our own mental health. It's going to give us a sense of accomplishment at the end of each day, the end of each 3 days, the end of each week. Okay, a constant pace allowing us to move forward. I've made accomplishments, I move forward to the next level. Knowing that we have a light at the end of the tunnel, that is my product that I'm delivering. I've rescoped things. I've looked at customers, understand their needs. We've really leaned into delivering frequently, working with my team, indexing towards something that works over something that is perfect, and getting that thing out the door, okay? Absolutely important that we're considering those things. If we have to rescope, reprioritize, and reduce resources, that is fine, okay? The constant pace is just that, frankly, we're making decisions. We can't delay decisions like we may have been able to in the past, right? A lot of teams, a lot of companies will over-rotate on sometimes minutia. What are those things? What are the things that you can now go, you know what? This is urgent in a crisis, let's move. And so if we have to rescope, reprioritize, or reduce resources, it's okay. You want to be thinking like a metronome. 3 days, 6 days, 9 days. we're going to reflect on what is critical to our business and realign those milestones to keep moving forward. So there may have been some products that you were developing of, a line extension where, hey, people like this, maybe they'll like this thing that's related. That's a lot of risk. We may not be able to afford the marketing expenses or the product development expenses for that, right? Do we create a different SKU of the thing that we have? Is there a lower price SKU, right? Even if it's a different color, does that help us capture different market share, okay? We want to be thinking about that, but at the end of the day, you have to make those decisions. That's reflecting on what is critical to your business. Realign those milestones and just keep moving forward. So good design principles, very, very important. When we are rushing, the first thing that goes out the window is that process. We communicate with the vendor on the phone. There's no documentation. There's no follow-up. We get something that doesn't look like we want it to look, and then we're angry, right? So we can't let that happen. Things are going to happen on the fly. Totally get it. Lean into that, understand. However, you want to make sure that we are documenting things as we move forward. What was the rationale behind that decision, right? We decided to bring this new SKU out to the market instead of that SKU because it was closest to cash. We had people who were interested, et cetera, et cetera. We have existing customers that we reached out to and gave them some options. And those customers told us they would buy this over that. And we have some data, and then we can do some things like that. At the end of the day, don't let the documentation get sloppy in this time of crisis, okay? Product development has to be like a metronome, involving others, and well documented. You will regret it 3 months, 6 months, 9 months from now as we kind of come out of this and you're wondering what the heck happened, why, right? Or you end up in a bad experience with a vendor that frankly could have been avoided with appropriate documentation because everyone's rushing. The products that we're developing right now, that we release, they're going to be with us for years to come. So when you launch that product, expect that it'll be in your SKU assortment a year from now, 3 years from now, and maybe they're 5 years from now. And so let's not, we got to find a balance between the crisis side of things and making sure that the right products that reflect our brand appropriately at a price point that makes sense, et cetera. Okay, so finding that balance between urgency and planfulness is critical, and that's where leveraging our network, bouncing things off of mentors and people in your networks that can provide you with feedback is really important. I like this one here. So keep it simple, silly. We want to go for simplicity over complexity. Customers will understand it better. Take less marketing dollars to make them understand what we're trying to do. It's going to allow us to deliver frequently. It's going to allow us to get that working product at a constant pace that's well documented. Okay, so with or without this crisis, the simplest solution tends to be the right answer. We don't have the same resources we had before. It could be cash flow that we don't have, that we used to have for marketing that was planned, right? We don't have the same people in our organization, perhaps, potentially, okay? We need to use this as an opportunity to challenge our assumptions of what customers actually, what they want to what they actually need from the business, because those have changed dramatically in just 4 weeks. So The wants of customers is absolutely not as important as the needs. Simple is often the answer when it comes to building a product, and that's all about lean MVP, minimum viable product. How do we simplify, 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 so we drive down price, drive down complexity, and frankly allow us to deliver in a faster timeline so we can get closer to cash. So another principle of Agile is this idea of self-organization. Teams are supposed to form ahead of these quote unquote sprints based upon their desires, expertise, and also the business. So that allows people to learn along the way, as well as dive into topics that they're great at. We need to find a way to empower the team, whether or not we have a team available to us from just 4 weeks ago. Okay, so there may be people, again, that we still lean on. There may be people that we've been able to continue to employ, which is great. Again, a lot of government programs helping with that right now. But we want to make sure that we're leveraging the team around us with a clear goal around it. So if we're not clear about our goals, it ends up happening that we end up developing something, wasting time, even if it's 3 days. Wasting that time could be critical from a cash flow perspective. So organizing myself, making sure we have alignment around the goal, that's going to be through my team, like a metronome, motivated, delivered frequently, okay? It all starts from the customer. If we have the opportunity to listen, you'd be surprised what people around us will find ways to accomplish goals in ways we never thought of. So it's amazing, and this is a lot of the mentoring and work that we do at Innovation Guelph, is we deal with really smart people. Every entrepreneur that comes in the door is a really smart person. And sometimes it's just a different perspective, from having done it before, or frankly, having a different idea from a different angle, where we can unlock whole new ways to do things. And so whether it's with Innovation Guelph or a different mentor in your network, or again, the team that you may have available to you still, vendors are great for this. I've leveraged vendors a lot in my career to make sure that I'm utilizing their expertise and they feel part of the solution. So it's really important that we are listening to those around us, brainstorming that a little bit to understand those needs based on a goal that we're trying to achieve. Okay. And then last, Agile is all about these short planning cycles. Okay, I can tell you 3 days from now what I will have accomplished, more so than I can tell you what I will have accomplished 3 months from now. How do we make sure we use these short planning cycles to accurately estimate where we're going to be, but then also adjusting them from week to week if they have to adjust, right? A week feels like an eternity these days. You think 4 weeks ago, again, I was in Australia, okay? So a lot changed very quickly. And we need to look at what we accomplished in that week, adjust our expectations from week to week, whether that's what we can accomplish, the resources needed, or whether or not that product is still something I can continue to invest in, right? We're going to have to make some tough choices around our roadmap and ultimately what we're trying to deliver for the marketplace. So we have to give ourselves that space to reflect on what we accomplished in the last week versus the plan. Okay? Every week I have a plan, what I want to have achieved. Sometimes things happen and we have to adjust. And that's okay. It's a matter of what can I achieve, talking to customers, realistic expectations for ourselves and the team, that team being, again, our team internally, our team of mentors and advisors, or our suppliers, and setting realistic expectations for the following week. Okay. I have learned this, just because you yell louder doesn't mean things happen faster. So it's not something that is going to help. So how do we understand our customers and work our way through this stuff? Constantly look at those weekly progress and adjust expectations for the following week. Okay. Project management is all about time, cost, or quality. Okay, the classic triple constraints. And so if the time isn't working, I have to do things. I have to either add more resources, which is cost, or I have to reduce my expectations, which is the quality. So no matter what I do, those triple constraints, the volume of that triangle is going to be the same. And so if we don't have the cash flow we had before, we may not be able to work as fast as we were able to, right? So it's really important that we're constantly looking at those things as we move forward. So project management communication strategies always start with the customer, okay? If we lose sight of the customer, you will not be successful. Start with the customer. Who is buying that product? Welcome change, deliver frequently, okay? If I can do something in a week instead of 2 weeks, I'm gonna do it in a week. And doing it in a week means I may have changed scope. That's the change. Work together with the team and motivate. How do we keep a motivated team? Those face-to-face communications are going to help with that. And so whether it's a vendor that we're struggling with, you know, they have a lot going on in their lives too at this moment in time. And so how do we work together as a unit and just pick up the phone and you know, kind of work through those pinch moments of those relationships when we're all stressed out. Index working product at a constant pace that we don't get sloppy with. So we want to know if I can get a lean MVP out to customers for them to experience. It's not perfect, but it's good. That's what we want to do. Okay. Keep it simple. Make sure you're leveraging your network around how we can solve problems. And then every week we're reflecting and adjusting on what we accomplished. Okay. Just because we want it to happen doesn't mean it will happen unless something changes. There has to be a stimulus for that. And so if we can get smaller delivery, maybe we can actually deliver on time. So I wanted to provide some communication strategies for uncertain times, okay? So really quickly go through this, and you'll have access to this in 48 hours, and certainly happy to provide more feedback later on. But from a project, this is just communication strategy in uncertain times related to projects. And so there's no rocket surgery here. This is stuff that can seem as common sense, but sometimes it helps to see and hear this to be able to get perspective. So communicating the change as soon as possible. Again, if we're working with vendors, if we're working with consultants, you know, I've had contracts canceled because they don't have the cash flow, and that's okay. I understand. And I'll be there for them tomorrow and the week after and 3 months later, and certainly, you know, help it out however I can. But communicate the change as soon as possible. When you know, you know. And let's make sure the team is aware and we're able to move that forward. Explain what is changing, how and why. Be clear, succinct about that. Let people know what they can actually do. So empower people to make a difference during these volatile times. We want to inspire, motivate, own the change. Okay, we want to know that we're here together. Be visible. So as we're dealing with suppliers, you know, there's a lot of suppliers that, you know, may have provided credit terms to companies that frankly are not going to be able to make their payments on that credit term. And so if we can get ahead of that, talking to our vendors, working with our vendors, being open and honest with our vendors, that's really going to help as we're trying to, again, come out of this stronger in the end. Be that role model. Show how, a lot of this I'm phrasing in terms of working with vendors, because I know a lot of you work with vendors at this point, but certainly be that role model of change where they're just like, man, it's so easy to work with so-and-so because, working with that other person over there hasn't worked out so well, right? Because they've been hiding and this person's been really open and honest with me. So from a project communication strategy, knowing who does what by when, what's happening, measured like a metronome, is going to allow us to get through this. Using that variety of communication methods. So we want to obviously use phone calls, video, text, emails. Don't hide behind the distance. Okay, we want to lean into it and over communicate. So one thing that certainly when I've had global teams that I would do is make sure every week there was an email that went out of kind of the status update across the various things that we're working on. Okay, I had vendors all over the world working on things and making sure that we had at least one source of truth, one point in time that said, here's the status of what the organization believes is a great thing to leverage, again, on a week-to-week basis. Okay, and remember that communicating bad news it's uncomfortable for both of you, right? So it's like, I can't make my payment for this open invoice that I have. They're not going to feel great about that, and neither are you. Okay, there's no perfect way for us to do this. It's going to take time, and what I'm saying is, if we can communicate clearly, open, frequently, and highlighted, most important, honestly, we're going to be able to get through the project work that we have to do, right? The people that we are open and honest with to say the status of things, ultimately the team decisions that we have to make, the vendor decisions we have to make of who's going to get paid and who's not going to get paid, we communicate that open, honestly, and frequently. Frankly, that's going to help us 3, 6, 9 months from now as we're continuing our relationships with these people and companies. So from a project communication perspective, these are the 7 things that we really need to be thinking about. And as you go through communications with, again, people in your network, kind of going back to this list and saying, did I, right? Can I really say that I communicated it as soon as I could, right? Was I visible? Was I on the phone with these people, right? Is it somewhere where I'd go, yeah, I'm proud of the way that I dealt with that vendor, right? And that's okay. So making sure that you're constantly having that reflection in these uncertain times, I wanted to provide kind of a list that you can go back to and give it some thought. Okay, I'll take a quick drink here. Okay, project planning during a crisis. There's a common roadmap tool that I use with lots of clients, and I wanted to share it kind of across this webinar with all of you. What I want to do is, by showing you this, it dovetails really well into the agile product development principles that we just went through. And I think it can be something that provides you with a framework for going forward. And click, there we go. Now, so when I'm thinking now, what am I immediately planning for to deliver? What is the team? What am I? What is my vendor? What are they focused on now? Every week, at the end of the week, we're going to assess our progress to those goals for the week and make those required modifications that we talked about to the plan based on our ability to hit those previous deliverables, right? So I can have a whole shopping list of things inside of now, but if I'm not achieving those nows, I have to really sit back and reflect, am I being honest and truthful with myself? am I able to deliver on the commitments that I'm making? So if I'm not, they may go into the next bucket. And the next bucket is that vision we have for the business as we better understand the impact of the situation on our ability to deliver. So whether that's general business continuity of our current products or the ability to gain progress on our new products. So we may have things that are happening in the now bucket that frankly aren't happening at the pace that we needed to make, and we have to move it into next. Because we're simplifying the now to deliver something closest to cash. We're going to constantly evaluate our MVP and determining, is it the simplest slice of things that I'm working on now, or should it move into this next bucket? Later is where we want our business to be when it grows up. Okay, it's that North Star for us that guides us along for our employees, investors. We may need to pivot the vision in the short term, in the now. However, we do not need to pivot from the long-term goal. Has the ultimate goal of our organization changed from where it was just 4 weeks ago? So what the later bucket is going to allow us to do is go, am I still trying to deliver the same type of thing? Does it still make sense? If it had to change, it had to change. But fundamentally, has the goal of my organization changed? Has that ultimate roadmap changed? And so I tend to use this with startup clients who can sometimes change their roadmap based on which customer is yelling the loudest, or frankly, the one customer who may be paying them. And so what ends up happening is we actually go off track from where we want to be in the future. And so having this bucket of now, next, and later is going to allow us to really segment our thought process and allow us to be more considered and measured with our approach. Different ways to think about this is will happen, should happen, and could happen. So will, should, and could can be the same thing of now, next, and later. It's just a different adjective to describe the situation. But in the now bucket, these are things that are going to happen. If they are not going to happen, they move into the next bucket. And the next bucket is going to have things that pop from next into now based on the urgency of the situation. There may have been a cost-reduced version of my product on the roadmap that I was working on a different version of the product, again, a line extension of some kind, that now becomes next, and next becomes now. Okay, so really thinking about having your buckets organized, and we're going to be reflecting on those. Different way to think about it. In large corporate, this is what I used to do: 1 year, 3 year, 5 year planning cycles. Okay, simply will, should, could, now, next, later. That's probably not super appropriate these days. I do like 3 month, 6 month, 9 month. Okay, and again, given the crisis of the situation, we may have to change that as well. 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 9 weeks. So much depends on your actual product that you're delivering and the timeline that makes sense. If you're making a piece of hardware that has supply chain, logistics, tons of other things that are going on, you may not be able to get to 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 9 weeks. Okay. What's important is that at the end of each week, we're reflecting on the now. Every week. Is the now that we have still effective, or should it be moving into the next? One thing I want to be a little cautious of is 3 day, 6 day, 9 days. We want to be careful that, again, we don't get spinning too hard here. There may be some products that you can convince me would be appropriate for it. However, in this weekly cadence that I talk about, and looking and reflecting and making sure that we're making progress constant like a metronome, 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 9 weeks is about as granular as I like to get. However, your business may be in a different situation. There's certainly some fitness businesses that have moved online and doing that online, and certainly 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 9 weeks probably wouldn't be appropriate for that. So there are always situations. However, when we're dealing with typical products for customers and what have you, 3, 6, 9 days can be a little tight, and I want to make sure that we have a sense of pace that is, again, constant. Okay, so there's a little, yeah.
I'm just going to give you a little bit of a time check.
Yeah, this is the last slide, second last slide.
Wonderful, it's 3:34. Thanks.
Cool. So so Mickey, you can monitor the activity then, because there's going to be the activity. So I can put 5 minutes in quotes, okay, because 5 minutes is going to feel like eternity. I had 10 minutes on there, and Mickey corrected me, of course. I normally do this in front of people, and so 10 minutes isn't so bad, but probably 3 minutes on a Zoom call is probably enough at this point. What we want to do is, using the now, next, and later framework, and many of you may have worked with me in the past, and we've probably talked about this, but what I want to do is look at what are in those buckets. Quickly document short, medium, and long-term business priorities, okay? What am I working on today that could be quickest to cash? And that's critically important if we're driven by cash flow at this point in time. And other than going deeper than survival, okay, let's look at what we will accomplish in the next 3 months, 6 months, and 9 months for the business, okay? Because there will be a business 3, 6, 9 months. It may be different from what you have today, but there will be a business. So, and our bonus is, what is one thing you need help with today to meet our goals, okay? And so what we want to do is try to facilitate this a little bit. And we have the hour and a half, and we'll have some time for this. But certainly, if people have specific asks of the group in terms of some level of engagement, or if customers and or suppliers in some areas or whatever, we'll have to manage it, of course. And this is the first time we're doing it. But what we want to do is make sure that you have the opportunity to reach out to a network and get support. Okay. So, Mickey, how do you want to handle the timer?
Well, I think you should leave that slide up if you don't mind.
I can.
And then people can chime in too. I think it would be great to start hearing from people to see what it is they need help with.
There you go. Let's do that there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'll give it a couple minutes, and I'm not sure if you want to, I can even put a little clock up, 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Well, it'll take us right till 3:40, so I can keep an eye on it too.
Yeah.
Look at you.
Disco clock. It's going to kill my bandwidth.
I can just keep an eye on the clock.
Nope.
So John, you're looking for them to write down short and medium and long-term priorities for the business, right?
Yep. So, sorry, my mic out. So yeah, so now, next, and later. In those 3 buckets, think of what will I accomplish, what am I working on now, what's next, and what's down the road. And then in the now bucket, it'll be what's that one thing you need help with today to meet your goals.
Perfect. And then we can share that and see if anybody on the call can help with that too.
Yeah, totally.
There's about 30 seconds left now, just to bring everybody's attention back.
See, that went faster than you thought.
Not really.
Do the Jeopardy song.
Yes. Should we do the countdown from 10?
No. Okay, I knew that was going to do that. A bunch of noise in my ears. Okay, so certainly it tends to take longer than 3 minutes to go through this type of stuff, and I don't want to take away from what I think is the value of doing this exercise, and so I certainly want you to go through that exercise in the future on your own. This whole idea of looking at my priorities in these now, next, and later buckets, and that quickest to cash piece being so critically important, even in good times. I'm constantly pressuring the clients that I work with to go, don't polish this. Like, can we get this out? Is it good enough? What's good enough? And constantly challenging those assumptions. So I want you to challenge those assumptions and kind of be really tight on now, next, or later. Okay. So Mickey, I'm not sure if you want to kind of open up people or how you want to handle that through the Zoom piece, but just that, that one thing that you need help with today to meet your goals. And, certainly I don't want to open it up for a free for all, but I'm not sure if people can raise their hand, and
They
you or Wes.
absolutely can raise their hand, and we'll keep an eye on it, and we'll unmute them as they raise their hand.
Okay.
And I do have someone here with
excellent.
something to share,
Cool.
if you're ready, Don.
Yeah, I'm done talking. I'll mute.
Okay, perfect. So, Chris, I will put you on in just a moment here. I just need to find you in our list here. There we are. Okay, go ahead, Chris.
Hi, Don. Hi, everybody. I have a client that I'm working with through IG, and this is very pertinent to them. For immediate case right now, and it's kind of like a survival thing, but to secure financing for cash, and we've been counseling them to pivot their product line. But my first indication, or my first inclination, would be to complete the work that they have in their funnel and concurrently work on the next piece that you're referring to, which would be more of a market or customer research for a new product line and MVP. The later would be once we've established the market and consumer piece, to make plans for scaling and securing their supply chain, suppliers, and distribution side to get it out there.
Okay.
Very high level, but
yeah, no, totally. What I think if Chris, if you can send Mickey and I some of the details on the specific IG client, there may be some opportunity just to kind of provide some perspective on whether we're going to push through the funnel the stuff that's almost done anyway, versus kind of cut or push to a later date. But kind of knowing more about the product line will help, and I'm happy to certainly help out where I can and on that one.
Yeah, that's great, and
Yeah.
that's exactly the dilemma that I'm
Yeah.
having right now, because it's a lot of stakeholder management. Right
Of
now.
course, no, of course,
Yeah.
and people get wedded to the idea, and certainly I've already spent $50,000 on this, et cetera. And so those are the tough decisions that we have to make, and I'm happy if I can provide some impact or feedback. I certainly will. So if you want to send Chris a note to Mickey and I will, and Wes, we'll see what I can do. Okay. Wes, who else do we have?
I don't have anyone else at the moment. Mickey, have you got anybody there?
No, I don't either. Does anybody want to share or say what they are looking for? I think that one thing you need help with today, we were hoping to kind of hear some of those things to see if there's anybody else on the call that could help with that one thing. To see if there's any good kind of collaboration we could start putting together. So please feel free to reach out either to Wes through the Innovation Wealth one, or to me, and we will get you talking to Don.
Yep, or whoever else is appropriate to help you out, certainly.
Absolutely, we can make introductions afterwards as well.
We have a whole roster of people.
And maybe that's, since I still have anybody yet, could you flick to the slide that talks a little bit about what else we're doing at Innovation Wealth?
I still got 2 more slides to finish up if you want.
We still have 2 more slides. Let's move on and see if, wait, we have a hand.
Brad raised a hand.
Yes.
Long-time listener, first-time caller.
All right, go ahead, Brad.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Wonderbar.
Good. So just for those people who aren't accustomed to the agile methodology for products or even for software, any recommendations as far as tools to use? I have a few that I use, but I was curious, like for what you're using as far as agile tracking and those types of things. Like I have friends of mine who are in the software business who use agile to make their turkey at Thanksgiving, and people get pretty addicted to these things. But you would probably be a guy who would know maybe some good tools. If you're listening and doesn't know, the tool sometimes makes things a little bit easier too.
Yeah, totally, Brad. It can. I was hesitant to include tools only because when people are kind of going fast, learning new tools for planning and tracking can be tough. And being that I'm adapting it for hardware, a lot of times it's a break of kind of a balance between Gantt chart type project communication and agile stuff. So when I'm looking at people kind of trying to keep track of things, tools that I look at are Basecamp, a very simple project management communication tool that have been used. A lot of clients have used that. Mondays, frankly, a Trello board can be your simplest way to do this. And so my go-to tool would be Trello. That I just say people making these even now, next, and later, making these buckets and kind of keeping track of things is something that I find very, very helpful. So that's what I use. I'm not sure if there's other tools. I'm sorry?
Spell that? Can you spell that?
Trello.
Okay.
Yep. So if you Google Trello, it's a very many companies, whether they're doing software or hardware, physical goods, baked goods, doesn't matter. Even services you can kind of use in there, just a Kanban board. So Brad, is there any other tools that you would kind of recommend that if you're making a turkey, you can use Agile? That's awesome.
Like you see people, the old-fashioned way of doing it was literally with Post-it notes.
Yeah, it's a Trello board, yeah.
Yeah, and just moving it across and what's in progress, what's waiting.
Yep.
You know, and all that good stuff. I use, and it's free if you are a G Suite subscriber. Asana is a good one as well. Just you set it up as a board.
Yep.
And that's pretty simple to use. But it is like people who start into agile methodologies, they adopt it for everything that they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I honestly, I'm so glad I jumped onto this today because I didn't realize that I always thought there'd be a good application for it in products, and it's wonderful to hear that it is because it really is a very intuitive way of doing things.
100%. Yeah. No, it's just if anything, if the kind of one thing people walk away with is this idea of quickest to cash, and how do we set up our processes to be agile and moving forward with that. So yeah, Kanban board, like a Trello board, post-it notes on a wall, 100% love it. Whiteboards, post-it notes, keep it simple, like KISS principle, keep it simple, silly, so that we don't let the tool get in the way of actual progress.
Yeah, awesome.
Okay, cool. Okay, I will move on.
Sorry, there's one more question.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, sure.
So let me just get to Lucy. All right, Lucy, you're unmuted.
Hi, thanks, Dawn, for your presentation.
Hey, Lucy.
Hi. Hi, everyone. I'm Lucy. I'm the founder of Lulu Education, and we are a Canadian company that specializes in online education. We are experienced in building learning communities and helping kids make visible progress. We've been doing this for over 2 years. So as we launch our Canadian group classes, we are looking for parents and collaborators to have their kids attend a prototype of our group classes. These would be online classes that are focused on the social learning experience, where kids come together, they learn on the core subjects, including math, French, language arts, following the Ontario curriculum, and they will engage with each other. So that's kind of our most pressing need at the moment. We would love to see if anyone, you guys know of parents or have interested parents to attend these prototype classes.
Cool. So looking for people to participate, kids to participate with their adult supervision, to do group classes that are taught by teachers, Canadian teachers.
Yeah, we are a team of teachers. So we were founded at the University of Guelph, and all of us, we are professional licensed teachers. A lot of us, we all went to different teacher colleges across Ontario, so we all have the credentials. Especially now, given the crisis, a lot of us, many of them can't, because many of us are still doing our placements, so we've lost our placement opportunities. So they all have the extra time to do the lesson planning.
which is good and bad, obviously. So the ask, what I'm hearing, and I'm not sure, Mickey, how we'd want to manage this, is if there are people on the call who have children or know people with children, are there age groups that you're kind of looking for, Lucy?
Yeah, so in the past 2 years that we've been doing this, we taught kids overseas and from age 5 upwards to 17, so K to high school level. But for our initial group classes, we are focusing on French immersion, language arts, math, these particular subject areas, as we have teachers who specialize, their teachables are in those areas.
Okay.
Excellent. So Lucy, what I can do is if anybody today has anything they would like to say in response to them, that's great. You just have to put your hand up, but otherwise I would welcome anyone to reach out to us and let us know, and then we can connect the two of you together.
Sure.
Why don't we, Lucy, why don't we put the ask into an email and flip it over to Mickey and myself, and then we can figure out how to, communicate that out to the rest of the team.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Cool. Okay, so Mickey, you want to move on?
Yes, please.
Let's do it. And present. Just make sure you can see that activity slide, Mickey.
Yep, I can see it.
Awesome. Okay. Okay, so as we kind of move forward into thinking how we approach our product management communication, project management communication across whether it's our organization, our mentor network, our supply network, there's three things that I really want you to consider here. I want to look at short-term, tangible goals that are needed for your business that we can track in this 3, 6, 9-month cadence. Okay, if you need to make it 3, 6, 9 weeks, totally understand. Make it useful for your business. What I'm trying to do is create separation between that now, next, and later. So that's the approach that we take, and we're constantly, the way that I handle this with clients in normal situations is every month we're reviewing how did that move to the right? Did we accomplish what was in now? Did we accomplish what we expected to accomplish in that 3-month planning bucket of now? Does it have to move? What's changed with our customers' feedback? So getting into the cadence of using a tool like this is something that I would absolutely recommend. Where can our collective experiences, connections help each other stay on track to helping our customers? And it's all about helping our customers. And so there are things that you know that somebody else may not know. There's experiences, make sure that you're leveraging and reaching out to your network to kind of stay on top of things. Don't forget to pick up that call and make sure that you're reaching out and talking. And what are the next steps, the next follow-ups to maintain momentum for our business to move forward? Okay, we want to make sure that those follow-ups are moving forward and that they're planned with a cadence, that constant metronome, always ticking every week. We're reviewing, we're moving forward, and we're making sure that we're allowing ourselves to make the modifications required given the situation. Okay. So want to make sure we're sharing with all of us. Okay. If there are asks that you have for support and people to provide you with feedback or ideas, reach out. Okay. We may not have the answers by any means, but certainly we may know somebody. If we don't, we don't. However, there's the worst thing we can say is we don't. Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to just say, you know what? We have a really great big network that can help. A huge network of innovators and entrepreneurs and partners and sponsors. And if there's something you need help with, you can reach out and we'll see how we can help.
Yep. And if we can, we absolutely will. Right?
Yes.
Okay. I'll leave you with this. So I love this quote. I don't know why it came up when I was putting this together, is that everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And that's essentially what's happened here. Okay. If you're good and your plan is working, somewhere during the duration of that, the outcome of that event you're involved in, you're going to get the wrath, the bad end of the stick. Let's see how you deal with it. Normally, people don't deal with it well. What's going to separate us and our business from others is how we deal with this punch in the mouth. It's how do we come out stronger at the end? How are we adjusting the way that we're doing things, the way that we're planning, the way that we're looking at delivery of services that would have been completely impossible 4 weeks ago. And we have to do them now. So I want you to be thinking about some of the tools, some of the perspective that hopefully I've shared here, and really look at ultimately how do we react, because that's what's going to separate us from others in the marketplace. Okay. So Mickey, with that, it is you.
I just wanted to bring your attention to the rest of our online series. We have effective leadership and virtual team building during crisis, which is happening next. It is on Thursday, April the 9th. Same time, same bat channel. And PR strategy during COVID-19 next week, followed by a business leader panel on the 17th. We welcome you guys to sign up and attend those sessions as well. They'll be really great and offer a lot of value. So within the next 48 hours, we'll have this up on our YouTube channel. Wes and I will reach out with a follow-up to all of you, sending you a copy of Dawn's presentation today, as well as the link to the YouTube presentation and any tools that we can share with you or any information that we can share. But I welcome you to reach out to us at Innovation Guelph and just see if there's anything we can do to help you out. If you are in a place where you really don't know what to do next, we will offer a 1-hour free COVID-19 consultation with one of our talented mentors and industry specialists. So if that is something you would like to take us up on, I would really like it if you would let us know. So send us a quick email. Anyhow, I wish you a wonderful rest of your afternoon. And with that, I will say goodbye. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dawn.